How's everybody doing today? I'm Dylan.
I'm John.
We want to thank you again for joining us for another Facebook Live today. John's got a shout out for his drink. You want to go ahead and tell him what it is?
Yeah, it's too hot. I just have seltzer today. Grapefruit flavored seltzer, by the way. Thank you.
Switching it up a little bit.
Yes.
Like I said, thank you all for joining us who are listening now. We started off with a new topic today, and it's going to be employee retention. So let's get into it. Question number one. Why do employees leave?
Why do employees leave?
Why do employees leave?
So reason number, right, there's a million reasons why people leave. Statistically, may be different than what people think in terms of why people leave. So there's a lot of conversation that often happens around money, right? People leave because they're not making enough money, and this is the time for them to go and get more, particularly in this economy. Unemployment's low. Certain skill sets are hard to come by, and so people can, get a bigger price tag for what they do. I'm not taking away from that in my answer. I think that that's a reality. There's also the especially in human resources, a lot of times we talk about the fact that people leave people. They don't leave companies, they leave people. And so they quit managers because the manager is not really, good to them. I mean, basically, right? Doesn't communicate well, or is just mean to them, or asks them to do too much, and they don't feel like they should have to do so much, or whatever the reasons are. There's just some tension with the manager. And again, there's reality to that as well. Statistically, right now, a couple of the most recent surveys talk about the fact that people leave because of opportunity. Is there an opportunity for me to grow, to advance, to add value to the organization that I'm a part of? If they don't see that, they don't stay. And again, this is statistics, which means, the other answers have validity. Right. Number three, I think, is compensation on the most recent survey. So comp does matter. It's not that people want to not make any money. It's just, it may not be as important as a couple of other things. I think that, people should be, business owners, managers, supervisors should be aware of the fact that staff have needs. And I don't mean needs like I need to be 10 minutes late for work. Sometimes that happens, but I mean needs like, where do I see myself? How do I fit? It's not always a 5-year plan, but at least something next. What happens? How long do I do this job before you start looking at me for another job? If that's not really clear, then people may leave. The other thing that I should mention, though, because I know that we have folks who will see this who are in a much more transactional type organization. So let's talk about somebody who works at a fast food restaurant.
Okay.
It's hard to have a ton of opportunities. You could become like head cashier, right? Or maybe your shift supervisor, but not everybody will get that opportunity. So how do you keep people engaged when it's heavily transaction? They come in, they work the register, they're making the burgers, whatever it is. I don't think you should lie about it. Like, if the job is what it is, then just say that.
Do you think most people going in know that they're probably just going to have it as whatever their starting role is just going to be what it is?
I think so. Part of the reason I say this is because we do sometimes in this business community right now, we talk so much about help people see where they're going to go, help them understand how they're going to make more, help them learn a lot more than they do today. And all those are good things. You just may not have as much latitude in every role to be able to do as much of that stuff. And I'm picking on like the cashier at McDonald's, which is a fine role. I'm not taking away from that. What I'm saying, though, is you can only go so far, as opposed to something that perhaps within an organization that there's an entry-level type role and you can keep moving up. I think that you have to paint the right picture for people and be realistic about it. If you kind of overinflate it, they'll really leave because you lied, because there's a trust issue. It's funny, I interviewed someone recently for a role, and I shared with him by the end, here's the bones of the role, not just in terms of duties, but here's the comp, here's how much you might be able to, there's an incentive portion to it, here's how much you might be able to make in the first 12 months, the second 12 months. And the reality was, is as he then shared, because I didn't ask, as he then shared how much he's making currently, the ramp up was less than where he is today. And he said, I said, well, that may be a problem. He said, no, you told me. So I go in with my eyes wide open. If this role really is offering more than just that, and it was obvious through our conversation, it was more than comp as being the reason why he wanted to leave where he was currently. So compensation isn't the be all and end all. And we need to remember that, I think, as a retention consideration.
Bouncing back on your beginning point, when people want to, are with the company longer, they want to advance, they want to have room for growth. I kind of took that in my head as like, I have like a sports background. So back in the day, I'd go from JV to varsity. People want to, they put more effort in.
Did you really go from JV to varsity?
For some sports, but I was trying to say varsity, but.
Or stay JV. Keep going.
But, you get better. You feel like you deserve to get that starting role. Right. So that happens in sports. I guess same thing in the work field. You're willing to put in the work and you want to move up and you want to have room for growth.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally true. I forget where I was. We were talking about, there's this, it was a pay equity. I'm sorry. It was a pay equity situation. There was a young lady training a new hire, a man who she had to train him on the work, same role. So she had to train him on the job. And then she found out he makes more than she does. And so she was like, I'm sorry, if I'm good enough to train him, how am I not at least making what he's making? Right. And again, is the issue compensation? Certainly it is part of the issue. But the other issue is, what are we communicating here? Right? And so people leave organizations because they don't see how would this person, this young lady who was training someone, who was given the nod because of her skill set to say, hey, we trust you to do this. Now all of a sudden realizes you don't trust me. You just needed me to do it. That's a different story, and it doesn't make me want to stay.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was good. That was question number one. So, that was a long question number one.
Well,
Going into question number two, why do bad managers stay?
Why do bad managers stay? I don't know. I wish they'd go. There's a couple of reasons, I guess, that come to me particularly top of mind. One, I don't know that organizations pay enough attention to their managers and how ineffective that they might be. If everything is based upon an annual appraisal, it could be that the director who sits above that manager is stretched. Geography might be a consideration. The corporate offices might be in Detroit, but this particular manager works in the Lincoln, Nebraska office. You don't see this person every day. You don't hear a whole lot of complaints coming out of the Lincoln office. So no news is good news, and people just stay, right? Just keep doing what you're doing. I think for some managers, they stay because they can. So the construct of a company, if it's production based, if the manager is still a producing manager, which happens in some organizations, it's hard to divide that role. So yes, he may not be a great manager, but he's really good at bringing in this business or cranking out this many widgets per hour. And we were hoping that he could train other people how to do it or get them to do it. And he's trying. So he's not the best manager, but we don't want to lose his production. And so companies sometimes are handcuffed for that reason as well.
What about from the manager's perspective? Like, they're manager now. They don't want to leave at all, even if people don't like them, right?
Yeah, but if they suck, they should be taken out, right? But of course, some managers stay because they're allowed to be power hungry as well. That there's a very chill or maybe overly introverted leadership team, and a manager is promoted. Someone's promoted to a manager, and he or she could be a real go-getter, mouthy kind of person, intimidating even. And I've seen this in some organizations. manager and directors who are intimidating to the CEO, CFO because they don't have those same skill sets.
Mhm.
And so they can't envision life without the person. And so they have them stay. Sometimes bad managers stay because employees don't open their mouths. You know, if there are managers who are not doing what they need to be doing, genuinely not doing, they're picking on me. Okay, maybe, but let's take some time to figure out if it's about one person. But if there's a few employees who are experiencing the same thing, I don't get any support. They don't really lead me from point A to point B. I can't have any sort of honest conversation with the person. I never can collaborate with them. Well, somebody needs to start talking about that.
Yeah, because they're not going to know what the problem is until you say it.
Right. And if a manager has been allowed to be not so great,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, use this example, right? If I'm your manager and I'm not doing a great job, you don't say anything, and the only documentation that we ever have are my reviews of your work.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide down the road to finally say something, it might be easy for people to look at all those previous documented reviews and say, well, Dylan, you're only saying this because John's been trying to keep you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
He's been telling you you're not doing a great job. And now you're lashing out because you can't be successful in this role. So we may not listen to what you have to say as seriously. Right? Does that make sense?
No, it does.
And so if you need something, and again, employees have to not be super jerks about it, but I think you have to keep that door open to have conversations. When I was early in my career, early to mid-level in my career, someone used to say, we promote the flakes. That's what they noticed in the workplace, that you could be not so great. And if you're not so great under the radar, you wind up getting promoted. And so he used to say, we promote the flakes. Because none of the good people would put up with this. They would go. So left are people that are just the ones literally that are left, who've been here longer, and so we promote them up. And so those bad managers get to stay just because they've been around a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really care how effective they are. They just know things in their head that we might not know how to do. So we got to keep them around. I mean, there's lots of reasons why bad managers stay. I think in this market right now, there's a little bit of fear too that if we let people go, we won't have the right people to replace them with. And so the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's a great business strategy. Right? It's like, to me, it's like staying in the marriage for the kids.
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to fall apart. You just set yourself up for that because the kids won't always be there. And then you want to move it to, well, then we'll stay together for the grandkids. It's not the same. You don't live with most people don't live with their grandkids. So you just can't keep punting it and hoping it gets better. You have to address it.
Yeah. Wow, very well thought out answer again for question number 2.
I think that's a lie because I just thought about it right now. So there you go.
Wow.
So I appreciate that, though.
Deep explanation.
Lots of words.
Lots of words. All right. We want to thank you guys for watching this week's video on employee retention. This is going to be up on our YouTube channel shortly, as well as our other social media accounts. So stay on the lookout. And thank you to those who are going to be checking it out later. We'll see you next time.
See you, everybody.